Good morning everybody, welcome back to the shop today. Got some interesting stuff happening today. It's just going to be a little one day, I hope, but we'll see how we go. We'll get through a few things. Last week we finished off building the little boxes, and I couldn't help myself, but I had to put a sand and put a finish on it. And if you want to see how I do that, well then you go back through some of the other box making processes and or projects, and you'll find areas where I've been doing some finishing with different stuff. So a bit of Constantia oil, a bit of wax, and they come up quite pretty. So I'll just move to Pam's camera and just show you what they look like in the finished product. So that's what they look like in the end. Nicely softened with all the rounding over of the edges. Perspex needs a bit of plastic where my grubby fingers have been, but they turned out quite nice. That's the 2-penner and the 3-penner, and as you can see, they do sparkle a little bit once you've got a bit of finish on the job itself. This one is walnut, that's silver ash. Somebody said they wouldn't mind making those out of MDF. Well, yeah, not so much a good fan of that, but anyway, that's what they turned out to be like. And I'll just turn the boxes over to show you what they look like on the bottom. So that's what it came out like on the bottom, that one, and that's a piece of jacaranda at the bottom of that one, and this one here is Honduran mahogany. And as you can see, the box is the way that I like to have the boxes, all made out of solid timber and clean stuff rather than manufactured timbers. So the other point that was made during the process of actually building those was, how do you keep those in there while you're carrying them around? Well, they're actually designed to be carried around. They're designed to be a little display case that sits on a desk somewhere. Now, if you're giving it as a gift, put a piece of bubble wrap or something like that in there to hold it in place while you actually present it. But once it comes out of there, it'll be good. So that's the fancy one. Now today's project, what we're going to do is we're going to use up bits of offcuts. Now what we want to do is we want to make something similar to this. Now this just looks like a 12mm piece of timber. It's actually 2 pieces of timber. When you open it up, you've got a single pen little case. Now you can buy these. They're relatively cheap. You can buy them anywhere you like. But what I thought today was, all of these offcuts, all of these bits and pieces that we have left over from boxes, they're offcuts, they're the leftover bit. So you might have a piece a couple of metres long or a metre long or something like that, and you end up with a box full of offcuts. Now you can use those to make little boxes if you like, but sometimes you just don't have another piece of that size to actually use as a box or use in a box. And when you look in the box, you can see there's a whole range of different timbers that I use. Like there's some Huon pine, that's Honduran mahogany, so is that. A little bit of red banksia, a little piece of wing, black art sassafras. Like there's a piece there, I could probably make quite a nice little box out of that, or I could use it as a panel on the top. And there's a piece of New Guinea rosewood. And you can see there's various ranges of different timbers, bit of coachwood. So you've got quite a number of different, or actually I've got like lots, I suppose you would too, have lots of bits of timber lying around, a whole box full of the stuff. Now I've got stacks of this stuff, and I eventually give a lot of it away, but what can we do with it if you've spent all that money on the timber? What can you do with it? I'll show you. This is one thing you can do. So what I've got here is I've got a piece of Honduran mahogany, a piece of silky, just a piece of coachwood, and a piece of silky oak. Now, I had a little test with the silky oak, and I cut a couple of trenches in it, so I'll show you what that's about in a minute. I won't bore you with that at the moment. But what I want to do is I want to go through the process of building one of these. Now, the size of it is going to be dependent on the pen that you put in it. Now, it could be one of those pens. It could be a little skinny one like that. So you've got, what you have to do is you have to start organising your tools around that. Now, there's not going to be many tools that we use. I'm going to go through various different types of tools for each of the processes, but you don't need many tools to actually do it. So the tools you're going to need: a chamfer bit, a rounding over bit, a core box bit, and a drill bit. And pretty much that's all you're going to need. And your router, of course. You need something to cut the piece of timber in half, and you'll need something to actually set up there, and of course your drilling jig. Okay, so there's not many tools involved in this. These are generally dressed up already. I found that when I'm dressing timber to do a box, I will sand and finish the whole piece so that it's actually finished to about 800. So it's in pretty good condition to start with before you even sort of get it ready. Now, the secret to this process is you need to make sure that your piece of timber is perfectly square all the way around, because what we're going to do is we're going to build each of the parts, then we're going to cut that in half, dress it up and make it look quite nice. Shouldn't take you very long. Now, it'll probably take me a little longer because I'm talking to you as well. And again, thicknesses really doesn't matter. I've got a 12mm piece there and a 10mm piece there. I might actually do the piece of coachwood, because it's coachwood's quite a nice timber to use. And although, mind you,
you can only use a skinny pen.
I can only do it with a skinny pen because it's very, very thin. So you can't actually cut a very thin, deep trench. So you can't use it with that. So let me use the 12mm, and we'll do it from there.
What about the core box bit?
The core box bits. Now, when we're talking about core box bits, we talked about those last week. The size of the core box bit's got to sort of match the size of the pen, really. Now, this is the 1/2 inch one that we have in our kit. This is a 3/4. Actually, if I was to make this as a commercial venture, I would probably have to get something in between those two, like a 5/8 or something like that. But I don't have one, so I'm going to use the 3/4, and you can get the bigger one. Of course, it's just way over the top. But if you feel that that's going to do the trick, by all means, you use that as well. So that's our core box bit. One of the other things that you can purchase to replace the core box bit is a spiral bit with a round top on it. Now, that's a 1/2 inch one. I'm sure you can get them a little bigger than that. I haven't looked, but they are available, I suspect. But that's a 1/2 inch one, which would be adequate for the skinny pen or a small pencil or something like that. So that would be the trick to use. So let me get into this, and we'll start, and we'll do the measuring and so forth. I'll put that in there so that I've got it all already set up. Drop it out of the way so that we can work on the rest of it. Now, the next thing to do is to work out the sizes. I want to put a pen about there. So what you need to do is you need to judge how much room you have at the top and the bottom of the pen. This is 160mm because my pen's about 120, 125, I think. The pen's 130. Okay, so my material is 160, so that gives me about 15mm on each end, which is quite good for that size. If you want to make them bigger, by all means, you make them whatever size you want. because we're using offcuts, you can judge it any which way you like. Now, whether you want it in the middle, or you want it towards the edge, or if you want to make it so that it's got room for 2 pens, depends on the width of your piece of timber. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the trenches in it, we're going to cut a rebate down the middle of it, and then we'll take it from there. But for this case, we'll just use 1. So you have a choice which way you want to do it. So, you know, let your imagination go crazy for a little bit. Just remember, you've got to perform the act too. So if it's too crazy, you'll never get it there. All right. Now, I've measured this in half. This piece of timber is just under 120 millimeters, so we find the middle. And I've got the middle, I've already got it there, so the next thing to do is find out where I want the pen. Now, I want the pen fairly well in the middle. So it's about 30 mil. Of course, my 30 mil on this side. Square. I'm just going to square a line along there. It's not necessary, but it's sometimes a good idea. It just keeps you in the loop when you're working with it. Square it up again. And that's where our pens are going to go. Now what we need to do is we need to mark the end of it. Okay, because that we have to line up with the centre of our outer bit. Now, depth. How deep do you want that to be? A good way of doing it is to take your pen, sit it on the bench, grab your lark tool and do that. The size of my pen is, what's that? 13 or 14 mil is the width of the pen. So half of that's 7 mil. So if I set my lark tool to 7 mil, and that will be the height that we adjust our router bit to. I still haven't fixed this router. One of these days. Just a tiny little bit up. That's it. Okay, so that's given me my 7 mil adjustment. So that's the depth I'm going to cut to. Now we need a fence. And a couple of stops. Now I've got a long fence on here. Need now position that on the centre of that mark, on the centre of my box core bit. Pull my fence in, so, and we'll lock in the fence. Now I had 15 millimeters at each end of here. Mil there. We have 15 mil there. square, I want to put a line here. And that's going to be the end of the trench. Again, mark the edge. Now I need a couple more flaps and a couple of stops. Now I'm positioning, turn my route a bit so that it's parallel to my fence. Okay, so the cutting teeth is running along here. And if I sat square and pushed it up to the fence, you can see how much material is going to be taken out past the line. It shows a very, where did I put that pencil? It is here. You're going to have a fair bit of material over the edge of here cut away, and I don't want that to happen. Alright? So what I want to do is I want to stop that edge here. So I'll just bring it back a little bit. Put it on a piece of timber. Just line that up with the edge of the route a bit. Okay, so I've got that lined up. Put that under there, just see how far we go. So the centre of that route bit is about here somewhere, so I'm going to have the curve will be on the line. That's what we're trying to achieve, is that bit there. Okay. Put my fence on and stop. Try that again. One there. You do the same on the other end, so I'm lining that up where I had the other one. Bit of a fiddle. Once you get it set up. Now the beauty of this is I can do 5 or 6 of them at the same time. So I'm all set up, ready to go. What I want to do is I just want to check my measurement to make sure that the distance, a bit difficult this one. Let's get the square on here. It's not going to work either. I'll measure it after I cut it. I could do a test. Now, the technique here is to sit a piece of timber on there, drop it down and run it along the fence. Make sure you're travelling in that direction, because the turning of the route a bit will spin this way and it will keep pushed up against your fence. If you try and pull it back the other way, it's going to kick the piece of timber away and you're going to ruin the piece of timber. Mind you, it's only an offcut, so if you do damage it, well, then you can always grab yourself another piece. But anyway, everything's tight, everything's on, that's on, the router's on, we turned on the switch, ears on everybody. So that's perfectly 15 millimeters, and the pen doesn't quite fit, so we've got to take a little bit more out of it. So that's just a matter of, where's my pencil? This. I'm going to move back. 5 mil. Should give me a little bit more. Perfect fit. Okay, so it's just about to do the other side. And there I have my 2 trenches. Now, the trenches that I cut in my piece of silky oak earlier, same size, but that's the 1/2 inch size. You can see the difference between the two. It's quite significant. Now, that's okay. This one's okay for a skinny pen. A thin pen will go in there quite nicely, whereas the fat one sits above it. Okay, so if you're making your pens a bit chubby, it doesn't quite fit in there properly. So the bigger one is actually better. Okay, when you get to that stage, it's now time to drill the hinge holes. So let me get rid of all of this stuff. I'll go chasing those later, but I find this quite a nice little project, particularly if you're going to make a lot of them. They're actually quite good if you want to, if you're one of those people who makes little boxes and sells them at craft shows or markets. It's actually quite a nice little project, and people pick them up and they can put them in a handbag. Okay. Where we want the hinges. Now, the hinges, what we're using, I'll bring the little box over actually. What we're using now, little pin hinges. Now, these are the version that Jimmy Carroll has at down in Carroll's Wood Turning Supplies. They are 5mm diameter. The silver ones have a, and this is very important, you need to make sure that when you drill the hole, the reason I've got the smaller ones is because in thin material, is from the centre of the pin to the outside edge here is 7mm on these smaller ones. And you need from the centre of that pin to be the depth that you drill the hole. Now, there are others on the market that are bigger than that, probably used for different types of boxes, and I've used bigger ones that have got 12 and 14mm lengths between the pin and the end of the hinge. But that's not going to work because it's a 12mm piece is actually going to be too deep for this one, and you're not going to be able to round over the edges and other things interfere. Whereas the little small 7mm, they're adequate. Okay, so you can pick those up from Jim down at Carroll's Wood Turning Supplies. And I've got silver and I've got brass, depends on the timber. Sometimes some bits of timber, are better suited to silver. Others are better suited to brass, or if you want to be a little different to everybody else. Now, drilling the holes, drilling jigs. Now, over the last over the last 12 months or so, we've developed these little brass drilling jigs. Now, they're specific to purpose, and they're something that you can do pretty simply. Get hold of some brass and make yourself some drilling jigs to suit single action purposes, right? So all they do is they give me exactly the right measurement every single time. I'm not having to judge anything, adjust anything, or measure anything. I've got everything already sorted out so that when I want to use it, I just need to put it on my piece of timber and lock it in place and drill the hole. Now, that's quite a simple task for this one. Now, there are others on the market, and I've got various drilling jigs. I've got one that looks a bit like this, that I can actually put on a piece of timber and I can line it up wherever I want to and drill the hole. Just need to have the right centerpiece in it to do that. Again, it's very awkward, and it's quite a heavy little piece. And then there is this one here, which was sent to me by one of our viewers, which is quite a nice little one. The difficulty I've found with this one is it's really good for finding centres. It's an automatic centre, like it's just a matter of sitting it on a piece of timber, putting it there and drilling it. But if you're trying to drill on a thin piece of material, say for argument's sake this thick here, it's really hard to balance the thing in the right place to get it so that it sits straight when you drill it. So hanging onto that and your piece of timber, it's all just a little bit too difficult. For bigger jobs, it's perfect. It does exactly what it's meant to do, and it's a really good, well-designed piece of equipment. You can buy these ones here at I'm not quite sure if they're available anywhere in the hardware stores. You can get them online. So, and they come with lots of different size centres that you just screw out of here.
Difficulty would be clamping that onto the side of the box.
Yeah, holding it.
Trying to get it to hold it in place.
Yeah, you have to hold it in place with your fingers. It's not something that you can actually clamp onto a job. So that's the only difficulty I found with it. But it's perfect for some of the bigger jobs that we do, and quite easy to adjust. So I can put it there and slide it along, and I can have exactly the same distance on the other end just by putting it this way. Those things actually work quite well with it. So, like I say, there's lots of different jigs around, and you can purchase those you can get all of those, get those from online anywhere. But the ones that I've made are specific to purpose. They're designed specifically for this job. That's it. And that's it's something that I do all the time, is make a jig to suit a purpose. It's no different to me building this jig, and this jig is designed for one purpose, and that is to curve over the handles of trays that you put in boxes. So it's a specific job. Okay, drilling. Now, where do you want the hinges? I've got a number of these little jigs. This one is 20mm from the end, which is probably too close to the end. This one is 25mm to the end, again, specific purpose, so 25mm. When I look at this little box here, this commercial one that we've got, and you measure the distance from the hinge to the end of the box is 30mm. 25 probably won't work. If I wanted to go to 30mm, probably just make another jig. But this one here is 40mm, and this is the one I'm going to use. So I'm just going to put that in place. Now, setting it up is difficult. It's a bit of a task, just making sure that we've got it spot on. So that it doesn't move and it's flush with the end.
It's just fiddly, isn't it?
A little bit fiddly, and I'm sure that there's probably something that we could do to actually make it so that it's not that fiddly. But then again, we're working with a very low budget, and I'm sure there are a lot of people on our viewers who are working on low budgets. You need to be perfectly flush on the ends. Now over to the drill press, and I've got the drill press already set up. Let me just bring our light in.
It's not making a lot of difference, but anyway.
Making a lot of difference. Let's see if we can turn it up a bit. There you go, how's that? Okay, so I'm using my 5mm drill bit. Got a little tag on there to give me my depth control. Move it on to the other end. This is a bit fiddly doing this, so I probably should have drilled off some before I even started. Flush on the end. I've got a little piece of timber underneath it because it's actually not enough. There's another piece of timber in my scrap box. There we go. Because the brass sits the thickness of the width of the brass is wider than the piece of timber. The wider than the thickness of the timber, I should say. Okay, so that's that side. Now we need to do the other side. One more hole. So there's all my 4 holes. So now we have the piece of timber, we have the hinge holes. What we need to do now is run a chamfer along this edge. And so what I need to do is I need to mark the centre of the hole. I'm just doing it by eye. And I'll mark the end of it, so where it's going to come across there, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut the chamfer across the edge like that. And that's our 45-degree chamfer bit. Again, that chamfer bit is one that we have in our kit. And now I'm just going to line that up. Come up a little bit. Fence. I like to use the fence for this one here. You don't have to because it's got a bearing on it, but I still like to make sure that everything is going to work perfectly. I'll put it on a fence. And I'll make sure the fence is lined up with the outside edge of the bearing. I'm running on the bearing and fence. Just check that. Looks pretty good. Okay, it is on everybody. Where's mine? There we go. Okay, so next task now is to cut that down the middle. Alright, so over to the bandsaw. And Pam's going to do a little bit of a waltz around the equipment so that she can get to where the bandsaw is. All I'm going to do is line that up. Now, I'm not too concerned if I haven't got it to perfectly in the middle. As long as I've got it close to it. back. There you go there, mate. You got it. So what I have now is I've got the top and the bottom of the box. And when you look at, if things are perfectly square, you'll see that the holes are actually lined up really nicely. So that's what we're trying to achieve. And then when we open it, it's going to open to 45 degrees. And from there, it's just a matter of shaping the box to whichever shape you want. And you've used the same piece of timber. So I'm going to put a couple of hinges in there. I'll put the little silver ones in. Now I don't want them in there permanently at this stage. I just want to line them up just to make sure that they're going to work. Again, a little bit fiddly. Push that down. And there's that little piece of thing. So from here on, it's just shaping the box. Now, the trenches are going to be in the same place because we've drilled the holes in the correct place. So the pan will actually fit in there quite, whatever it is. The pen will fit in there quite nicely, right? So, what do we do with the rest of it? So I just squeeze those together so that they're squeezed up. I'm not going to glue them in yet. And now what I'm going to do, now I've got that pretty much spot on through the middle, right? It's just a matter of tidying it up and making it look a little bit nicer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and round over, I'm going to go with the drop saw first, and I'm just going to tidy up the edges, just make sure we're all nice and clean around the edges and the ends. So if we go to the drop saw, and this is a really easy thing to do. It's just a matter of trimming up the edges. I don't want to touch the back of it because I've got that sorted with the hinges. But the front edge, where haven't we got right? That's better. It's just a matter of cutting that down. It's giving me a nice clean face along the two pieces. Now I just want to trim the ends up. Corners. So across to our little jig, and I'm just going to round the corners. So the box is starting to become quite a nice little piece now. Easy enough to open it up and close it. It's there. Like I said, you can buy these quite simply. Go along to some of the hardware stores. I know Jim Carroll has them. You can buy them, but can you buy them in the timbers that you might have been using in your boxes? Now, if you're matching a box up with a pen, that is always something good if you're giving a gift where you've got a box, a jewellery box and then a pen box as well. These are perfect because you can use exactly the same timber you used in making the box. And so now, round over bits. We have this little one here for sale, and you can buy it anywhere you like, in hardware stores or anything like that, round over bit, but we do have them for sale. We don't sell the bigger one, okay? And I do have another bigger one, which I'll dig out. I know I've got it somewhere. This one here is even bigger. So it's even got a bigger curve on it. So actually that one wouldn't look too bad, provided it fits down the hole of my router table here. Let's see.
Oh, we're very close.
Going to be close. It's quite a big round over. Oh yeah, it fits.
Just.
Okay. So now the thing is, you don't have to just round these over. You can shape those any way you like. You put a chamfer on them, whatever. That's up to you. But all I'm going to do is just going to round over this, make it all around, and then it's just a matter of tidying it up, sanding it up, and gluing the hinges in and putting finish on. So quite a simple little task, simple little job. So ease on, everybody. I've just realised there, but the bearing actually went into the hole. The bearing went into the trench, and that's not going to work at all.
Damn.
Oh dear. Okay, it's out with the fence then. That didn't happen on the last one I made, but then again I had the fence in place right at the beginning of it.
You didn't use that large.
I didn't use the large round bit either.
No.
Let's try that again. Now I'm going to have a little divot in the back of this one, so it's going to be a prototype. apart from that little bit of damage on the back, which you're going to have to rectify, it doesn't look such a bad little thing. I've got a bit of damage on the back of it they've got to fix up.
Let's have a look at it.
Shame.
Just have a look and see what happened.
So what I've done is I've cut in too deep, and I don't want to go any further because I'll cut into where the hinge is. So therefore the fence is actually a really good idea. So I've done that there, and that little bit of damage is basically because this has been cut away. But on the other end, it's actually quite adequate, quite nice, and it works quite well. So a little bit of trying to do things too quickly, and there we have one of those cute little pen bits. It's just a matter of gluing in the hinges, sand up all the parts and put a finish on it, and there's your little box. And it's very similar to this one, only this one doesn't have the damage on it. so that's a very simple task, quite an easy one to fix. Unfortunately, the damage on the back of that is such that I probably won't be able to fix it unless I spend a fair bit of time working out a way around it. I don't want to cut into here because that will cut into the hinge. So I might be able to do something with it, but I don't know. I think it's overdone. Probably not.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a learning exercise, isn't it, about using a different cutter that you haven't really tested off screen. Yeah, exactly. In the process. Yeah.
So
there you go.
Still,
as Skip says, stuff happens.
It does. Now, one of the other things I'm going to do with this one, just before we finish today, is I want to put, if you have a look at this one, it's got a little finger saw. Little mark there where you can put your finger to actually open it. I need to do one of those in here. Actually, we don't have the time for it. I've got to spend a bit of time chasing around after tools to do that. But anyway, as you can see, wasn't a lot of tools. We used 3 different router bits. We used a box core bit. We used the roundover bit, which is in there. We used a chamfer bit, and basically the router table. I used a drop sword, but you don't need to do that. You can actually put that in a vise and plane it if you wish. I used a table saw. You don't need to use a table saw. You can actually sit it in the vise and cut it by hand if you like. There's that sort of thing. We used our drill with our drill bit, 5mm drill bit, and we used our little brass jig. Now, as you can see, not a lot of tools involved. So it's just a matter of getting yourself set up somewhere and then going through the process of actually building some lovely little boxes, and you can match that up to any of the jewellery boxes that you make. So quite a good little project. As you can see, it only took us about an hour, and I waffled on a bit, so it's just a matter of doing that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a couple of weeks break, basically because we've finished our pen box series, and I'm going to come up with another project, and I will come back after say 2 weeks, 2 Sundays, and hopefully have a new project for you. But in the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel, and you can access all of the library that we do have, and you can practice some of the projects that we've done, or practice some of the processes we use, work out how the jig works and so forth. So by all means do that. Give us some thumbs up as well, and we'll be happy little chappies. So have a good break, everybody, and we'll see you all in
a couple of weeks.
Pam will put up something when the time comes, and we'll see what's there. So have a good week, everybody. I'll see you all later.